Welcome to the Bhakti Talk podcast. Once again, where we discuss the spiritual path through the wisdom ways and practices of our beloved Guru, Bodhisattva Sri Swami Pramadaya. We are your hosts. I am Dev, and there is
Swami's guy. Hello.
the Bhakti Talk podcast is presented by International Centers of Divine Awakening. Visit our website at icoda.org. Be sure to subscribe, watch us on YouTube, and find us on all social media platforms at Bhakti Talk Podcast. Today, once again, a very special day for our 10th episode. We are having another episode of Creativity and Spirituality, Part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, it's still available through all the channels listed before. For today, as we promised, we have guests, we have fellow disciples, and who are also having an artistic practice. And today we would like to kick off with a guest that we had already, advanced disciple Shamari Dev.
Today is a milestone. Hi, Shamari.
Oh,
Today is a big milestone. First of all, it's our 10th episode. That's already exciting. This is our first two-part episode. That's thrilling. And it's our first time we have a multiple guest episode. And it's the first time that we have a repeat guest. So in 10 episodes, you are our second guest. So we're already thrilled. It's a bunch of milestones all at the same time, as Ananda said. As Ananda Dev said, you are an advanced disciple. You're one of 5 advanced disciples of Swami Pramadaya, and you're also the administrator of iCoda Brussels. You guys together run iCoda Brussels, and Shamari, so we're talking about creativity and spirituality, and one of the things I love about Guruji, and he is the practical guru, as we often refer to him, because of his simple and very effective ways, his teaching ways and methods are so incredibly practical. And he says, if you're a spiritual person, if you're living a spiritual life, you are an artist because you're creating your life. And one of the discussions that we had in part 1 is how all of us, no matter who you are, become conditioned. You're a conditioned person. You know, it's structure. This is, green means go, red means stop. So guaranteed it's part of a society is to have a structure and the conditioning, and also the belief system, the ideas. Then it becomes identities and all these ways of organizing life. But that's not life. That's just organizing life. And Guruji says, if a spiritual person, you're living creatively, it's a requirement of the spiritual path. Aliveness lives creatively, and you're required to live creatively if you're going to grow, move, and get down the road on the spiritual journey. And one of the things that's very exciting and fun for me is to, 1, discuss that, and then 2, the thrill of hearing how other people live creatively. And I know with your background as you could almost call it a movement artist. I know we call it a dancer, but it's artistry through movement is another way to say dancer. And one of the fascinating things that I enjoy is hearing you talk about now, after having such a successful long career in dance, which is already an amazing accomplishment, but how movement still is part of how you move through life. You creatively see and identify, and as people are walking in shapes. But I've already said too much. We want to hear from you. So talk to us about creativity and spirituality, how creativity shows up for you. And then I also want to hear the experience of your direct artistry, which is through dance.
Yeah. So first, thank you for inviting me again. It's really a joy to be here with you. And I really loved your past podcast on creativity. I listened to it, and on artistry. So how I really, well, there's many things that came to mind when you were talking. So there's the awareness that comes to mind, which is a practice that is very present in dance, that really is also a practice in spirituality. So they really overlap. It's and neither can go without the other. They both need awareness, and so that's definitely one part of my artist practice. And I really like how you say movement artist. It's nice. It's good.
Yes.
It's so much more what it really is. And yeah, so the awareness part for me is really where for me, the first door to spirituality, through movement and dance, and through the discipline also is also actually an overlap, the discipline of dance, of the training, and the discipline of sadhana in spiritual
Mhm.
life.
If I
um,
had to define yoga in a couple of words, I would say the same thing you're saying now as well. It's really movement with awareness.
mm,
And what do you become? It's not just aware of the movement itself, it's everything that's going on inside of you. So if we had to define yoga, we could also change the movement artist instead of dancer, or that's the same term. We could also say and make it clear that yoga is basically, if you have to, physical yoga, hatha yoga, yoga of the body, is movement with awareness. So that's
mm.
a beautiful way. I just popped into my mind as you're speaking. Of course, yoga is part of your past, so I'm sure it's coming from you.
Yeah, and I explained it before that for me, dance started with being aware of what shapes I'm making, and that
Mm-hmm.
developed into more awareness of the inside, and then it develops more of a complete awareness. So for me, that went step by step. First, it's what am I shaping? What does it look like? But then it really becomes also like, what volume does it make? And the awareness grows. The awareness becomes bigger. And so the practice also of the awareness of my body and the other body and my body and the wall and all this is a beautiful practice, because it really, the more awareness, I mean, Guru Swamiji says this a lot, cultivate more awareness. And that's because only through awareness actual change can happen and actual growth can happen.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's great again to hear from you that your awareness comes through bodily awareness. It's like the body as a tool, as a dancer, your body is a tool. And that is, I think, also very different from probably other practitioners,
Mm.
artistic practices, that you directly come through the body. And it's great to hear you talk again about awareness, and mainly bodily awareness, actually coming into this part two and talking to spiritual seekers, disciples who also have a spiritual, who also have an artistic practice. I only had one question actually. How, because I see it's always about the here now moment. When you talk about awareness, of course, it's about here now too. And is it also, is this bodily awareness also tied into when you're on a stage? It's always about the here and now moment. You cannot take anything back. How does the bodily awareness and the here now um, coincide, or maybe they're the same thing?
Well, no, it's absolutely the more awareness, the more now, of course, because there is no real past or future. That's just ideas and concepts. So awareness of the moment, it's only here now. And it was interesting also in your podcast, in the last episode, you talked about the here now and being present on stage. And for me, it's the same. The more I am present, the more I actually disappear. And the more actually I'm not dancing, but dancing happens. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when you feel the magic. And that's when real art happens. That's the magic of being so in tune with what is and with the moment, and then it's just flowing. It's like really just taking that wave, and that's when you do your best performances. And it's totally related to really being in the here and now and being present. And then also there's a technique part, because you talked about the practice as well. And yes, you practice a lot, especially in dance, because you need to build up the muscle strength, you need to build up the body, but also you need to practice technique. But technique is just something you fall back on. It's not it's not the art. Technique is a tool you use. So the practice is necessary to have the right tools to really get the house built and do the dance and do the performance. So the practice is very important to have the foundation and to be able then to build the house in the moment.
I find that to be the case with all mediums, all practice.
Mm.
It really is. You have to have the technique so that you are free to allow what wants to happen. I also, as you're speaking, both of you, I have such an immediate. I already have an appreciation for arts, and I already have an appreciation for performance. I mean, technically, the last 24 years working in the film industry, we're capturing somebody's performance all the time. But what I didn't have as much until this moment was such an appreciation for your art. It's only occurring to me that how many artistic expressions, it's exactly what you're describing, but then there's some snapshot of that experience. A photographer, who we'll talk to later today, has a photo. A painter has the painting. A filmmaker, you have the film. It's all, a musician, you have the song. But a dancer, you have this piece in this moment, and it can never be repeated again in this exact same way. A performance artist, as you are, Ananda Dev, it's this performance, and this moment is it's really for you in this moment, at meaning the audience member. So it's like all of this work goes into this very moment, and there's what you're taking with you is your experience of that, and that has a richness to it that I appreciate, because you can't capture that on camera. It's not the same. You're not delivering a painting that's going to hang on a wall or whatever. You're delivering the experience of that precise moment of whatever it's taken, all the rehearsal, the practice, like you're saying. So you have the technique down so well so that this moment can be expressed, and that's it. You have, as a sharing, as an audience, as a viewer of that, that's what you get. And that makes me really honor and cherish the actual performing arts.
And that's also the beauty and the tragedy. It's a big word. It's not a tragedy at all. It's not a tragedy at all. But of that specific art, that you don't have a product. It's now and it's gone. Now and it's gone. Now and it's gone. And oftentimes in these days, not important. But if it's not filmed or if it's not a product, it doesn't exist. And with the performing arts, it's often the case. Like, okay, it happened, and then some people were there and were mesmerized by it or got a lot from it, and that's that. And every time again, it's the beauty of it. Forget what I said about that.
It's the Buddhist sand paint. You're a living sand painting.
Yes.
You spent all this time to make this, and then whoop, gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
it's alive art.
Really, truly.
Yeah, and there was something else when I listened to your last episode that came to mind. Freedom is also a very important aspect for artists, and that is related to creativity, because you need the freedom of the spirit, of the mind, to be creative in the moment. Because if the mind is bound, if it's fixed on an idea, or if it cannot create, then it's just dead and stuck. So that freedom aspect of it is so important as well for the artist, so that's also something that was important for me in my dancing, in always discovering, even if you have a written dance phrase that you need to repeat, when you find your freedom in that phrase, it's always going to look a little bit different. And of course, then the awareness comes, because you can notice where it's different, or you can notice where there's space to play. And even the same movement sequence, we call it phrases, movement sequence, is always going to be different. And that is the freedom you have, and that's the real freedom. It's not about doing the movement you want or like. It's really about finding the freedom within that movement sequence, so it is creative and it is alive, even if it's, you know, a phrase that is kind of set. Yeah, so that came to mind when you were talking in your last podcast. I think for artists it's also a very important aspect, and it's also something in spiritual life. We work on being free from conditioning, and free from, you know, our own ideas and concepts and limitations that we put on ourselves.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It makes me think of, this has happened to me certainly several times over my life, where you're at an event or whatever it is, it requires a cue. There's a line. And it's amazing how many people just get in line and never go, well, what is this line for? Do I need to be in this line? Is this line related to why I'm here? We very frequently don't even question, and that's something that is in the artist's nature, is a rebellious spirit, because the artist is trying to, is living creatively. The real the artist, the person who can't turn it off, who has to live as an artist, is guaranteed to be a rebel, is guaranteed to always feel like an outsider, is guaranteed to feel like you don't fit in. That's because you don't. The problem is that we think that that's an issue. It's perfectly fine that you don't fit in. You fit in. I love how Guruji has put this. You fit in the entire universe. Don't worry about fitting in something that isn't right for you, that is artificial. It's just artificially generated. It's just people who have gathered in that area, and a certain system has grown in that area. Not fitting in is great. Spiritual people should never be concerned about fitting in. That's for conventionally minded people who are just trying to fit into a system. But who wants to fit into a system? That's like saying I'm a robot. You're not a robot. You're you're a real, alive, unique human being. And part of the creativity that comes out societally is there's always something about them that's rebellious. It's because they see differently, they live differently. It's as one of the things I really enjoy. I enjoy, as you're describing the movement, that's still, you we were talking just the other day, that's still in, you just go walking down the street, you're still seeing movement and flow in that same artistry by just walking down the street. Why would you want to fit in by giving that up?
Yeah, and that's true. I see movement in everything, and for me, that's really, that's what I'm so drawn to, and really fascinated by: movement in light, movement in material, movement in people. It's so beautiful how everything is, the choreography of everything. I can see that all over. Like when we watch soccer, I watch choreography.
Well, I mean, what if you? We'll probably do this every time today. I mean, you could do this with every person that we're going to speak with, which is, if you had to define life in one word, what would it be? Movement. What isn't moving? Even that which seems still is still in motion. Just it's moving so slowly we can't measure it.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
all of
and
life is movement.
it's going to be interesting to hear from the musician and the photographer whether they hear sound. For them, it's maybe sound or light, or yeah. There's one other question I have for you, Shumari. The bodily awareness, yes. Is your practice as a dancer and having more bodily awareness, does that also make you see that you're actually more than the body, that you're beyond the body? Because talking about performing, I know for myself, while performing, I can be sick, I can feel very bad when I have to go on, I'm on, and the sickness is not there. I've heard the guru talk about that too. Like as soon as he sits in the guru chair, then however he feels doesn't matter, because the guru function takes over. It's not the same, but also being on a stage, a role takes over. you do your dance, I play my part, and however I feel is not an issue. How is
Mm.
that for you?
Yeah, I think I can. However I feel, of course, it disappears because you're in your role, and it's that's taking over. And I think in that moment, again, the body becomes like a tool, just like the technique. So it's, yeah, of course the body also disappears because it's just happening, and when everything is happening, it's all one. So it's there's no separation anymore. There's just all movement happening. And yeah, so that's definitely also for me the case when I'm dancing, or when I'm performing. That's definitely happening.
It
Yeah.
sounds like you're talking about non-separation, like
Yeah.
just being actually whole. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I gotta believe that there's a complete, it doesn't, definitely doesn't matter how you feel, because any dancer you've ever met, what they can do with their feet and their body, it's like it's incredible. It's the same level as a boxing. You're literally, it's incredible the amount what you can do to get into that shape is such a level of practice and discipline that it's really, there's some images that I've just, you're just like, how.
Mhm. Yeah, of course, some bodies are made different. Some
Hmm.
are by nature more flexible, some are by nature more strong. So that's also individual. But yes, of course, it's training, it's discipline, and then it's also finding enough joy in it too, because I mean, we're not all marchers, but of course, sometimes the body screams, and you're like, ah, okay, this is the limit. But yeah, it is mind over body. It's mind over body.
Hmm.
And we can do so much more with our body than we believe. That's also, where you can recognize, it's conditioned that after this amount of time I'm tired. Well, we can do much more. We can stay up much longer, and we can go much further than we think.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean we have to, and of course sometimes we need rest, but it is possible. It is possible to go more. And if you go in this quite strong training, you can discover this too. And with more awareness, you can see, oh, actually, I'm still okay. I can still go. And that's the point where you go mind over matter, let go of the idea that I cannot go further. Um,
So how does creativity show up for you now? How in your daily life or in your practice, like how does creativity show up for you now?
yeah. So now I'm not active as a dancer anymore.
Mhm.
I only dance in the kitchen. But
Anything else?
but it's really because everyone is creative. That's also what I heard Swamiji say, and I also heard it from Osho. And it's really, that was a discovery for me, because artists, a lot of the times they say, no, I'm and as an artist, it's a title, you have to earn it, and you have to first be famous before you can say you're an artist. I mean, it's maybe a European thing, but but I even as a dancer,
I could tell you for sure it's a society thing. That's a
yes,
perfect example of the society creating a structure set of rules and ideas that have nothing to do with what's actually true. I
yeah,
mean, I used this example before, but Vincent van Gogh wasn't famous.
yeah.
He wasn't some super successful artist. I got to tell you, he was an artist.
Yeah, and I actually heard people telling me that you're not a creator, you're an executor. And I was like, but I create every moment, every movement, every moment. Like, how can you say? I mean, of course, I didn't create it, God did, but I'm right
Oh,
now.
that's why they referred to God as the creator. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so
But that's not what the person was referring to. She meant that dancers aren't artists because they don't create. It's the choreographer that's the
yes,
artist. And I,
right.
I, I,
Yeah.
I totally didn't get that. And I was like, the first time I realized, like, I am an artist. What did she
Yeah.
say?
So what has Is it the gardener that creates the beautiful gardenscape without a, well, no, it looks like reactions are on. I better turn those off. Is it the gardener that creates, like, the gardener doesn't grow the flower grows.
Yeah.
It's the fact that there's a garden at all. The fact, well, how to create the ability to grow and the flower itself to grow. Just because you trimmed the plant a little bit, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
We're not saying that that choreographers aren't wonderful and gardeners aren't great, but to have the arrogance that you are something more than that which you serve is ridiculous.
Yeah. So, but to get back to your question, I'll get there. So discovering that I am an artist, even though I sometimes execute movement, it still is, I mean, it's in the moment. And when my full self is in there, then there's creation happening. There's yeah.
Mhm.
So I stopped doubting that, and I stopped questioning that. And I really, thanks to Swamiji, I really could see the creativeness of life as well, and how this is still expressing in my life is by much more being open to what the moment offers, to what is happening right now, and to go with that, and to much less be uh, running on fixed patterns or calendars. Or yes, you make a calendar, I still make a calendar, but there's so much more openness, which is a way more creative way of living, and you're so much more adaptable in that way as well. There's so much more sense of anything can happen, and that's how creativity expresses itself. And that's definitely is I see creative opportunities in life much more now, like
Yeah,
everything that is
yeah.
offered to me.
What you're saying is what I hear is you're saying, actually, I live more creatively now.
Yeah.
I am much more creative. I'm much more living. My life is the artistic expression now that I don't. I'm not I'm not an active dancer anymore.
Hmm.
However, my life has become, the creativity itself is informing my life.
Life
So
became the dance. Yeah.
yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it. Life became the dance.
Yeah.
And it's much less looking for creativity, it's rather receiving it, all these
Mhm.
opportunities that are offered. It's yeah.
Yeah. More spontaneity. And it's also very freeing, right? To actually live more in that way instead of, I always had this notion too, like, okay, when I'm on stage, I can do and be whoever I want or do whatever I want. And off stage, I have to be very restricted. That is also crumbling more and more. It's like, wait a minute, the stage is here now always. So yeah, that's also, Guruji sometimes also refers to, this is the stage we on, everything is set dressing. um, don't believe so much in it, you're just an actor on a stage. So
That's pretty funny because you guys have been on the stage. I've been doing the set dressing.
yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
it's some form of set dressing. When set dressing and props has been my mode for so many years.
And
It
actually,
wasn't so recently that the painting became really truly an expression, because I
mm.
didn't have that avenue in the same way until finally it came out.
And here now you set up this meeting, so you did the set dressing.
That's true.
And
That's
we
true.
and it's called literally on this on StreamYard, it's literally called on stage, you're
On
in the
stage.
show.
Yeah, yeah. I am not used to being in the show. I am a behind the scenes, set it up, pass you the prop. That has been my role. That's what I enjoy. And then most recently, it's been, surprise, you're on stage.
Yeah, you're not hiding what you talked about before. Don't
Yeah.
hide, just be in the show. And that's actually a good message for everyone. It's like you're
Well,
in the show.
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're in the show already. So
Hmm?
just once again, play.
Yeah, the show is your life. It's participate in your life, and and don't hide your, don't hide your light. It's how that's a how old is that statement? It's participate in your own life. It's the creativity that is your life. It has to come out through you, or has to be lived by you. So to try to minimize, and that's really what the structure and conditioning, and what the reason why we speak on deconditioning so much, and the reason why we talk about conventionality, is because a convention is a deadening of that creativity. It's saying that this is right, this is wrong. People, if you're living creatively, if you're living naturally, the question of right and wrong doesn't come up, because you shouldn't harm others, you shouldn't steal, you should, like, all of that is known. It's the creating conventions of, this is what you wear to here, and this is how you go to here, and this is the right way to say hello, and this is creating that with everything all the time, creates, it's just prison cells around all aspects of life. And now what do we have? We have a whole global culture that stares into a square box, that goes to work in a square cubicle, that goes home in this rectangular, and so everything is about putting life in a box. And life is way too alive. If you leave all that alone, there's going to be plants and trees and bugs, and, like, it's going to change those straight rigid lines of society into a creative affair. And we have nothing, there's nothing wrong with society, there's nothing wrong with, we highly like traffic and stoplights. That's really useful. Amazon delivers packages effectively, we get it, but that's not what you should base your life on. That's just commerce. You're not a cog in commerce, you're an
And
alive being.
yeah, and when we talk about God, we talk about reality, whatever
Reality.
is real. Everything you said now, all conventions, all rules, regulations we talked about before, it's made up. It's
It's
fine.
just made up.
It's
Yeah.
made up. It's not real. And when we talk within our practices, whenever we get to that moment of going beyond, disappearing, forgetting ourselves, that is also actually touching the real. And the more spontaneous, creative, real, all basically synonyms. Real,
Mhm.
God, guru, all synonyms. So it's, yeah,
And
yeah,
those things were made up at a precise moment in time when it made sense to whoever it made sense to. But people in the early 1900s were smaller and didn't live as long. So it doesn't have the same that's the thing we never put into, like, consideration, is the convention of this moment. Whatever the structure is in this moment, that
mm,
life is too alive, it's too creative, it's gonna change. Even,
yeah,
we're in the US, so we're really young, but you guys are in Brussels,
yeah.
and even the places that have lasted, many hundreds of years, everything is still changed.
Mm,
They didn't have Ethernet and phone cables powering the cities in the 1400s. Like, we never even take into consideration, everything changes. We always think, okay, now this is it. This is now the structure for all human beings that exist should live this long and have, be married and have this many kids, and they should follow this religion, and they should do this. It's like, what has ever worked that way? It does. Nothing works for everyone, and everything changes. So all we're saying is, if you understand that, you already understand that creativity is happening anyway. So
mm,
maybe we shouldn't put such a lid on it.
mm. There's a great quote, I believe it's from Osho, who says, "Tradition is peer pressure from dead people."
That's good.
It's a good one.
Osho.
Yeah,
I like that.
I mean, like you said, Sky, aliveness is always, it's changing. Aliveness
Always.
is not stuck. It's aliveness is changing. And
Mhm.
from our beloved Guruji, Swami Pramadaya, we were encouraged to really be aware of our aliveness and tap into our aliveness. And doing that more and more, you notice that is creativity, that is alive, that is not stuck and dull and fixed, and it's creative.
Predictable.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What's predictable is a lot is predictable in structure, and then what's predictable beyond that is that aliveness is. And you never know which way that flower is going to grow. That's where the gardener does come in, is you can shape and help the growth, but the true gardener is humble and understands that, you know, you're merely a servant to the garden itself. That's what the choreographer could understand. But I also appreciate the choreography, because that is a cutthroat job, and you have got to have a level of confidence that can only come out as arrogance, because you're dealing with artists who are guaranteed to be rebels. You got to organize all those people and get them to do what you say and not what they think. So we even honor the folks that probably come off a little brazen, a little arrogant. It's okay. We honor and respect you just as much.
Thank you, because I did that too.
Guaranteed. If you're going to be in even a spiritual organization, if you're a spiritual person, there's a certain, I mean, look at our beloved Guru's Guru Osho. I mean, it's the rebel press. It's like, I mean, there's literally nobody else. Rebelliousness is necessary, he used to teach, or he still teaches, because I don't look at that teaching as used to it. That's a continuous teaching. That's our view. There's nothing that dies in that teaching. That is true now, and it has always been. So there's a certain, you have to respect the people who create, because, you know, these plants fight back. These plants known as performance artists and dancers, but that's okay. That's part of it. That's what makes it so great, is they have such a fire that's part of what the aliveness, that's the creativity that's coming through. So yeah, you got to understand too, I've also worked with, even though I'm not a dancer, I've worked with a number of choreographers through film ministry, and so I've seen what this is like when doing big numbers, and man, is it impressive. I'm blown away. I recently was the prop person on they changed the name to Palm Royale. It's an Apple TV show, and we had repeatedly big dance numbers and lots of movement and intertwining and lots of choreography between people, and highly impressive. So
Yeah, when you were talking about the plants, it was very clear. Oh, but plants are creative too.
definitely try. Yeah, the life will find a way is often, a cliche that's often used. It'll find a way. That's, how do you think grass sprouts through concrete, and roots it will bend the road. It's like, yeah, life will alive. You can't halt the aliveness. This is the aliveness that's here. It's present. You can't stop the creativity of aliveness. It's alive. Wonderful. Ananda Dev, did you have any other questions? Shamari Dev, do you have any last thoughts for us? Thank you for joining us. It's already been such a pleasure. We look forward to hearing from our other two guests, and we're so glad that you started us off. Do you got anything else for us?
Just thank you, and it was again a joy to be with you.
Thank you.
About the continuation. And Jai Jai Gurudev.
Jai Jai Gurudev.
Jai Jai Gurudev, yeah. Okay, thank you so much. We're so pleased. I look forward. We'll keep the record of most visits from Shamari Dev. We'll just keep that going. I think you'll be our all-time record holder for guests. We'll make sure of it.
Yeah, you have to count the first appearance in the back too.
Yeah, true. You had a surprise visit also.
That's true. Yeah. All right. We'll put that on the tally. Yeah. Okay, my beloved sister. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow for class. So wonderful. Okay.
Bye.
Bye. So, Swami Sky, we just had a wonderful conversation with our guru sister Shamari Dev. And she spoke about her experiences as a movement artist, like you put it so eloquently.
Yes, and I must take a moment and honor Don McLeod. Don
Mm,
McLeod is the term movement artist is in my mind from 25 years ago from Don McLeod. He's a wonderful, wonderful, intelligent actor, performance artist. I met him when I was a production assistant. I must have been about 20 years old. And he is a movement artist. That's how he defines himself. And so, for example, he played Peter Pan's shadow in Hook.
mm,
So when Robin Williams was in the movie Hook, he had his shadow, and a shadow, as if you know, Peter Pan does all the things, but this is live action. So Don McLeod played his shadow. He also is a suit performer back way before CGI, and we referred to CGI for so much. Where he was, if there was a creature or a gorilla, there was a person in that suit, and so Don was in that suit. So he played all of these different characters, and he really is a fascinating study of performance art. And the term movement artist absolutely is in my mind. It came out spontaneously in talking to Swami Dev, but I must acknowledge the source, because the first time I met someone and I saw a piece of his where it was the 7 deadly sins, and he did a physical representation of each sin. And man, his ability to capture uh, either emotion or action or creature or animal is amazing. So it
mm,
was the first time that it ever occurred to me as the brush strokes of movement
mm.
are movement is dance. A dancer is a movement artist. But I must cite Don. I had a wonderful time with him. I studied under him for a little while when I first got here, and I ended up doubling him in the gorilla suit a few times. So there are pictures out there of me in a gorilla suit.
Yeah,
You'll never be able to tell it's me.
yeah.
So just so that little tidbit, I thought you might enjoy.
Yeah. Wonderful. It's funny that you want to cite someone, because we had a short break, and I actually was reminded of, I have a book called Essays on the Blurring of Art and Life by Alan Kaproff, and he is the father of happenings and performance art. And Guruji has also spoken about happenings, a term from the 60s, people doing performance and calling it happenings. And it was unscripted on stage. Things happened, so people were invited to, okay, there will be a happening and things will happen, and we don't know how or what. And what was also what we talked about before fascinating for me about this book, I only read bits and pieces, but also some of the performance art I did. Um, he even evolved to, like, I don't want anything I do, whether it's performance art or happenings, I don't want it to be filmed. It's just here and now. It's ridiculous to film. And the people around him were like, but when you don't film it, it's
It's
how can we
gone.
tell it happened? It's gone. We can't tell it happened. And it was like, I don't care.
You
It's
know what? You know what that reminds me of? Guruji, in the
yes.
sense that the first time I ever met him, I couldn't. That's not true, because the first time it was being audio recorded, but that was somebody doing a favor. Showed up, said, "Hey, I'll record this for you." But that was a workshop, but the public events were never recorded, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that these. I'm like, this is a spiritual teacher. Here's a spiritual master speaking on the essential aspects of spiritual life. How can you not record this? And I mentioned it to him, and he said, nothing I ever say needs to be recorded. It needs to be heard. You need to get it, and that's what goes with you. That's what's important, not the capturing of it, but that you act. It's more important that you get it than it's recorded. And with very little convincing, I expressed that there would be a value in recording it, and he immediately signed on for that. But at first, and that is still the genuine response from Guruji and from Ikoda, is it doesn't even matter what's said. So it certainly doesn't matter what's recorded. It doesn't matter what's said, in the sense that what's being said is for you, and that needs to be heard and gotten, and so that you transform. That's what's essential, not the actual words. That's what I
Yeah.
mean. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
And actually absorb. I've heard Gurudev talk about this too. Like, you have to hear it and you have to absorb it. It doesn't matter if you remember it or not. You don't have to write it down. There's nothing wrong with writing it down, but it's not essential. Hear
Yeah.
and absorb. So yeah.
You can memorize a scripture and regurgitate it, and that has no meaning. Or you can get the essence, you can get the understanding of scripture, and then never remember the words at all. Which one's more important? When you put it that way, you could just immediately get, oh yeah, it's not reciting scripture, it's getting the essential understanding so that you can grow spiritually. That's
Yeah.
what matters.
Yeah. And if you actually hear and understand, you live it. It's part of you.
Well, speaking of hearing,
Yes.
I'm thrilled to bring our next guest, who is with us and awaiting to join us in this podcast. It's first time we've had our guest, our beloved Lokadev, who is a musician and happens to be the son of Ananda Dev and Shumari Dev. Isn't it interesting that Ananda Dev, who's a performance artist, Shumari Dev, who is a movement artist, as we will say, a dancer, two artists, genuine artists, living artists, successful artists, have a son who's also an artist. So bring in Lokadev.
Lokadev.
Hey.
Welcome.
Hi, Loco. Welcome, welcome. How lovely it is to see you. I'm glad that we have made sure that our artistic palette is in alignment, as I enjoy color so much. Welcome. Today we're talking about creativity and spirituality. This is part 2 of our first ever 2-part episode. It's our first ever multi-guest episode, and we're very happy to have you here. And you are currently studying. Tell us what you are studying right now. My understanding is you're in school for music right now. Tell us about yourself. Tell the people what they want to hear.
So right now I'm in conservatory in Belgium, in Namur. And I just finished my first year of like Bachelor 1. So next year will be Bachelor 2. It's like this. Then next year I'll start the second year of a 5-year study.
Wow.
And I'm doing harp, classical harp. Yeah, it's really
wonderful. Yeah, I think every time I talk to you, you are either coming from or going to. He's like, I'm going to the orchestra, or I don't know if I can make the podcast at 10 your time because there's a concert that I want to see in the afternoon. So you are not only spending your time studying music, playing music, but also immersing yourself in music with other musicians. And your focus is classical music, and your instrument is the harp.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to put it in simple terms because you really, I know you've spent plenty of time in America, but the American system does not have a focus on the arts. So sometimes you have to make it really clear.
Yeah, I remember when being there was, you have one option. You can choose an artistic course, and most people just choose acting, like grunting leader. They don't want to do anything. They just sit there, try to just pass and then leave as fast as possible.
Yeah, we have unfortunately removed the arts from our school systems. We were saying this last time, but in America at this point, if you want to be in the arts, you basically have to go to an art school, which is not common. It's a select few, and quite honestly, the Americans view those folks as the weird ones. But I say yes to the weird ones because I love what a conventional person would call a weird view of life. Those are the ones that I really like because I call that creativity. So one of the ways I'd like to know is, how does creativity show up for you in your life? How do you experience creativity in your life?
I think most of the time I'm not really thinking about like, is it creative or not aware when something is a creative action. But I think it's mostly spontaneity.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I really notice when I'm spontaneous, there so many things can happen, and it's like it blossoms, and a lot of things come out of it. Um, and sometimes that's just mostly that's with other people.
hmm
Um, that it's just in general life when I'm not like practicing harp or piano or another instrument. But harp is my main focus, but other instruments I'm interested in. Um, yeah, but in general, it's when when I'm talking to other people, it can be really interesting to sometimes just, in a sense, go crazy, but it's just being very spontaneous.
I call that going crazy. I call that like wild. Like there's, in other words, it's spontaneous. Exactly. Like there's like the very limited, very constricted version where it's like, hi, how are you? Da, 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 da. But there's like we were talking about this earlier to Shamari, which is like it's an open mindedness, and there's a freedom in that, and then that open minded freedom, you're able to, whether it's speaking or whether it's decisions, you're able to live spontaneously. And to me, that has it kind of feels like the wildness of an open meadow. It's like horses running wild, and whereas society is like, no, 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 you're supposed to be in the stable, and you wear a you wear a saddle, and you only it's always following the structure. Whereas is creativity, living creatively. We were also commenting how Guruji has said, Swami Pramadaya has said that living creatively is the spiritual path. Living spontaneously, as you're talking about. These are different ways to say the same thing. So it's sweet to hear you basically say your version of the same thing, which always reminds me of Osho's quote of how the ocean tastes salty from wherever you taste it. It's like there's a lot of ocean. It's totally wild. You've got above the water, you've got under the water, but the flavor is salty.
Mhm. And hearing you speak, actually, Loka, I know you a little bit, a lot.
Just a little bit.
Um, yes. Um, like your practice as a musician, like you practice your pieces, you play your pieces, and one of the great things, like we have talked also with Shamari about, there's technique, and then there's the performance itself. In your case, it's, I would say, musicality. And one of your strengths as a musician is your musicality. Like, of course, there's technique, and technique is important, and technique needs to be improved. But when I hear you speak now about spontaneity and being with other people, that's also a sort of musicality, a sort of just letting go and letting go into the moment. In your case as a musician, letting go into the music. And when I know, oh, don't do
Wait, I can't see you anymore.
okay.
My brother called mom on the computer, so
Okay,
uh,
maybe you shut down that program. Yeah, yeah.
Hey, we love spontaneous interruptions.
It's
We're all for it.
happening. It's a
That's
happening.
part of the body. Yeah, it's the happening.
Yeah. So when you are not being, let's say, musical in regular circumstances or with people, then you're more constricted and more like practicing the technique or not practicing the technique. And when you're actually relaxing and freeing yourself and then just speaking to people, that it sounds to me that that is also sometimes that's musicality.
um, yeah. Sometimes when practicing, now to the last thing you said,
Mhm.
the sometimes when I can be practicing and like not be making any progress, in sense I'm just doing it like dormant, not aware. I'm just playing, and then that is fruitless, even if technically you're practicing. But I really wanted to say, um, the I just listened to the podcast the part one, and I really heard the um, uh, I'm blanking now.
It's okay. You can say it in French or in any language, in any of the languages that you understand, and we'll just smile, or at least I will. You know, Ananda Dev will understand.
So it was the thinking about it was about the thinking in the playing music, the spontaneity. I noticed that I used to just like see the music and just play musically. Like if I can play it, I just play it. There's no thinking involved. But then when the technique gets easier, it is also easier to start thinking more when you're playing. In the last year, I really when I listened to the podcast, I really realized that the sometimes when my teacher asked me this year to play more musically and to give more, um, and then I was really thinking give more or like thinking about a specific thing to do more, and then it didn't get better. It sometimes even got worse. Um, and then when I just let go, just into like more spontaneous and just musicality, it went great. So it's really interesting to just the to see that.
So letting
Yes.
go, being
Yeah,
actually engaged in the actual music because you're a lover of music, and actually loving what you're doing at the moment is then it
yeah,
flowers or blossoms, yeah, like you said, with other people.
yeah. Also, like what you said in the part one, the I is then gets in the way.
Mm.
Like if you try to really be there, like I am playing music, you're
Hmm.
listening to me, but you're
Mm.
actually listening to the music. You're not listening to me at all. Then it can really get in the way and stop the
Mm.
music in a way. Like it continues, but you're blocking it.
Hmm.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, and that is also something that I'm always amazed by. Like you took me also to concerts when I see an orchestra, I'm always talking to Loka and saying like, "Oh, why are they all dressed in black? Why not something more special, creative, or why is that person not showing off more or something?" And his answer is then, "It's about the music. It's about
Well,
the music."
that's a beautiful example because that's why we're having this multiple guests today, because how you're looking at it as a performance artist.
Mm,
So I mean that's my interpretation. So you're saying, hey, what would contribute to the performance of it? But it's like, no. This isn't a performance. This is a concert. This is about the music. So I don't, here the musician is saying, no. That's a distraction from you hearing. If you're something visually is grabbing you, then your too much attention is on your eyes and not enough is on your ears. And this is about really hearing the music. That's what this is about. And that's part of the beauty of this is, talking to Shamar Dev, talking to you, my own relation, and what I'm hearing right now from Loka is you're always in service of what the art, what the artistic expression is. We use the example, Loka, when we were talking to Shamari about a gardener, and the gardener, it's what is the emphasis on? What's the important part? Is it the gardener, or is it the fact that it's the plants, the flower itself? And then also, I mean, how do you separate out the fact that it's sunshine and air and water? And it's like, so the gardener doesn't is not the biggest thing here. It's about the performance itself. It's about the musical piece. So it's really a beautiful. I love this is exactly what I wanted. So I look at this episode for me is I wanted to hear from a musician. How do you experience? Like, what's your experience? How are you hearing? And then I'm hearing from a performance artist. No, it's more like let's add visual elements. So it's quite beautiful to hear this very moment, which is what I was excited for. So
And
how do you go ahead? Go ahead.
yeah, it's actually I think related to what you want to ask, like because recently, Loka, you shared also in another meeting we had, how you were recently on a holiday. You were in Rome or in Pisa in a church, and there was a lawnmower outside, and but the sound of the lawnmower in the church, to you it sounded like a male choir singing. So yes. And then now your question, Sky.
Is exactly the same. How do you, as you go through life, now we know the practice of the technique and you learn the technique and you've given us some experience about the music, but how moving through life, how walking around, how does music show up for you? How do you experience music in your life? And Ananda Dev is, this is the question comes from what Ananda Dev just said. You shared an example recently of how music shows up, but I want to hear more about that because I think it's so exciting.
So I think just in general, when music is on, or even in the background, I just listen to it faster.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's like a party and or just hanging out with friends and there is music in the background, if I really want to talk to someone, then it will distract me a lot. Like for them, it's just the background. It's just in the background. It's like a base level, but then it's harder to focus on what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I also feel that I haven't reached like a level that I can say it has really affected me like a whole lot.
But
And
enough to where
yeah,
a lawnmower sounds like music
yeah, for
is
sure.
at least you're so focused on music that sounds like music, whether it's qualifies as music or not. And that's what I appreciate is happening for you. And remember, you're only in year one. So,
Yeah,
and I know you for some time now, for at least a good portion of your life. And I want to suggest or at least check in because as a young, you're a young person now, but as a child, a lot of your focus was very much about the structure. It's like it's very much about, hey, what is the structure of this? You know, school, you go here, you do these are the rules. This is how you do well at school. It's you like the structure of how things are set up. And my experience of you is that has played into music. And a lot of this has been about learning the structure, as we were talking about the technique and the technique of the practice. And as you learn the structure, it's like jazz. Jazz has a certain structure. It absolutely has a structure. And then there's lots of technique. But within that structure, and classical Indian music is this way as well, which is truly divine music. It's really, really just the expression of it is incredible. But it's a structure, and the structure is important. But it's inside that structure you can do all of this variation, all this creativity, so that the music itself is that spontaneity. And so that's how I hear music showing up for you. It's like life relating. There's a certain structure to how life operates. There's then inside of that there's endless possibilities of creativity in relating, and that's how I hear music showing up for you now in the ways that you're hearing it in non-musical situations, such as a I like saying weed whacker because I think it's a funnier word. There's the lawnmower and then there's a weed whacker. Weed whacker just sounds funny. It's just a funny word. So if you can hear music in a weed whacker, that's to me that's how music is showing up. And I really enjoyed hearing you speak about how you could hear the musical aspect. And I don't want to speak for you in all this, but I just want to share the sweetness of it, which is this was in a class, our Beyond Self Training Program class. We were part of the exercise of the class that week was focusing on silence and stillness, and how silence is in every sound and stillness is in every movement. And in that silence and stillness practice, you were able to hear music in a machine. And I think that that's awesome.
And I also have to say, recently, I've been also hearing sometimes just when like in big crowds, like I remember that recently in a big crowd there was just it sounded really nice everything together, and sometimes there
Mhm.
are moments that I really listen to just the sounds of what's going on, and I can appreciate them, while I can hear, well, then a few minutes later someone next to me starts complaining about it, or
Sounds
yeah.
like you're totally getting John Cage, musician and composer, who has this piece called Silence, or the actual title is 4 minutes 33 seconds, where just a musician is on stage and is not playing, and the whole
Mhm.
point is like listen. My interpretation is there are 2 points. First is like listen to what's out there, and it's also called silence. So, and it's all from silence. So that's actually like you're expressing the same thing actually. Like in that experience you have in a crowd, you're also just listening to the silence and or the music, because silence and music are not a contradiction. Like for you, silence is music.
It's one of my experiences that I'm really grateful for in working in the film industry for 20 something years, and spending my union keeps track of how many hours you spend because it's related to my pension, and I literally have over 40,000 hours standing on a film set. And one of the things that always happens is there's the sound mixer. Obviously, the sound mixer is mixing live the scenes. There's either a boom operator, or if the boom can't get in, they'll use mics, but there's a live mixing all the time on a film set. You're capturing dialogue, and one of the things that happens is in between takes and in between setups, when you have to change the camera position, all those things, they have the mic is there, but he doesn't want to listen to that all the time. So often he'll have the monitors on. So he'll get out of headphones and leave the speakers on, and the boom is sitting in a stand because we're in between scenes. And it's always a fascinating thing to hear all the constant. But a film set is also a set that becomes silent, so it always goes from 80 people chatting and doing work to silence. And I've experienced that every day on a film set, of every day, like incredible amounts of movement and walls moving, and this window has to go away and get rid of that furniture and bring in the camera, and all, and then silence. And it has been one of the things that I really, really enjoy. I also really enjoy, after 25 years, not being on a film set anymore. But it is one of the experience of being in that sound and then silence is really something you probably experience it when you're going to orchestra, when the whole crowd is and then the lights come up, or in a performance you hear the crowd, and then it's created several hundred times a day. I don't know about several, that might be exaggerated. However many takes we do a day of however many scenes, it's created again and again and again, that moment. So I enjoy that moment. It's kind of what we're discussing now. I love that moment so much. I love being exposed to that the way I have. It's created an experience of both sound and silence for me.
Do you see a link, Loka, between spiritual practice and your practice as a musician? You've spoken about it already. You said, like, I'm spontaneous with people. That is actually, yeah, coming also from your musicality. But is there something you
uh,
could say about that?
when you said, do you see a link, I was looking on my screen for a link to pop up.
We love our young people.
Yes.
If you would have said connection, I would have checked the Wi-Fi probably. So.
Nice.
um, um, yeah, there is for me, music, I've been really trying to look into it and trying to understand it. But then also sometimes when I'm just practicing for a long time and there's no concerts I'm playing, it's just supposed to practice these pieces. It just feels like a useless endeavor. Even though it can be fun, but when there's no concerts in sight, it's just it feels um, not necessarily useless, but it's just like, what am I doing? Um, and then I really try to understand what it is in relation to, because life is spiritual life. So then the music, like to I really when I play music, I really want it to be beneficial for me and everyone, but mostly to my spiritual life. So I don't just want to play music. I want to see what I also want to understand, like art, like in the definition of art. I forgot it. It's like a little part of the definition that Promadaya gave was like the door where you can see the divine or experience the divine through it.
Exactly.
So that's what I want to do with music. I'm not there yet, of course, but that's what I really want to do. And also when I experience with other art forms but music, that is what I try to do. And when I go to a museum and look at art, um, it's what I go there to experience. Yeah, art. But
Beautiful.
yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. And you said, I'm not there yet. And I would like to add, yes, I'm also your father, but I think I can be objective also. When you play, sometimes when your musicality comes through, it it touches, and it's not only me, like it touches a nerve.
Yeah.
And that touching of the nerve, that is that doorway into the divine. Like something is stirred, something is once again happening. Yeah.
And we also, while that's the case, we also want to honor your very wise intelligence, which is, hey, I'm aware of this, and I know there, maybe that's a window, or maybe that's a peephole, or maybe that's a patio door. But that's the different. And they're I love how you say yet, because that's part of, knowing and becoming an expert in the structure, is then in the piece, the aliveness of it. And then I love the fact that you're sensitive enough to know, hey, actually, it's like Doctor Strange. You can open the portal to it can, like he started out with, he couldn't do much, and then there was a couple sparks, and then there was a little bit, and then then he can open portals to worlds. So that's beautiful to have that sensitivity to know this is what I want to serve. And I know I'm not there yet, which means there's more to go. And then your beloved father is saying, hey, but also you should know that there's sparks flying, and that you're at least in the direction of, so keep going. So
Yeah.
that's good. Beautiful.
That's also with playing concerts, there is more an understanding, or like a leveling, like realizing, okay, what did I do now? But the doing is, yeah, it's just what's the was that it was is that reaching further? Because sometimes I can think like, this is amazing, and then I show it to a bunch of other people and they're like, meh. Or my teacher's like, can you play with more emotion? And I thought it was just perfect, and or like really really good, and like so much emotion you can't go further. And she's like, I don't really hear it, I don't really feel it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's part of learning. That's part of life. That's yeah. Like you are young, and that's great. Like
Yeah.
learning.
And you're able to hear that. This is part of but this is part of the evidence of how wonderful your parents are, because you're able to be open-minded, and that doesn't somehow uh, destroy you as a person. it never feels good to be like, wait, I thought that was, and you're saying it wasn't at all. It's not like that feels great, but the constructive criticism and to take that and be able to grow, that's how you grow. That's how it shapes. That's how it becomes a a bay window, a patio door. It's that's how it happens. So it's beautiful. Part of the what I want to comment on is how wonderful your parents are, because you can hear that sort of feedback and it's just like, oh, okay. It doesn't have to somehow erode your confidence. It's just feedback.
Yeah. Yeah, I also heard with, I don't want to compare too much, but just sometimes with the other harpists, they're like, she was really mean to me today when she
Right.
just gave feedback, but they perceived it as like her being very mean.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly what I'm referring to. Some people, it has a bigger, some, well, I'll say it this way. Some of us are more sensitive and take things a little more dramatic when we get feedback. And the fact that you take receive it the way you receive it is part of the testament to how wonderful your parents are.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to honor them while I honor you in this moment. And I want to say thank you so much. This seems
Thank you.
just like the wonderful place to say thank you so much. We love having you on as a guest. I love hearing from you. I love hearing about you. I love hearing what you're up to, and I'm always enriched when you share.
Thank you.
Thank you, Loka. Thank you.
Mm. So we'll see you next Wednesday.
Yeah.
And until then, thank you so much for being a part of the Bhakti Talk podcast. Okay.
Hey, that was Loka Dev we just had.
Welcome.
And since you made some comments about parenting and good parents, just an idea. We spoke about it before, but that should be another podcast talking about parenting, because Gurudev Swami Pramadaya has also tremendously helped me by just saying a couple of things about parenting and children, and how basically be relaxed. I have two kids. They're both from different planets. Just this one thing Pramadaya told me, there's nothing wrong. They're just from two different planets. Boom. Everything dropped. Easy.
Well,
So,
he's also said how incredible you guys are of parents. And one of the things that I would acknowledge is how much of an individual you have allowed your children to be. One of the things that we do with our children is we very much try to make them and mold them into the shape that we are. Little us. Don't you want a little you? No, I want that is a unique being. I want them to be themselves and support them in that. And you guys have truly done that, which is also what allows such creativity and such confidence. We were talking about how Loka is able to receive feedback so effortlessly. It doesn't affect his being. It's just information. And that is, imagine if the world had, 30-40% of the population was this level of parent, all problems would go away, because then the generational craziness that we pass on wouldn't be as much. So to me, that's part of living creatively. We also use the term as a gardener. That's also you're not the owner. When it comes to children, you're not an owner. You're a gardener. I look very much forward to, certainly we enjoy comments, and people can let us know if they want that to be an episode, and we can just do it anyway, because we would love, but we love to hear from people, so they can let us know. Yeah. That comes to the fact that, so we've talked to a painter, performance artist, a movement artist, dancer, a musician, and next we have a photographer. We're very, very pleased to introduce Isla, who is an advanced disciple of Swami Pramadaya and a professional photographer. So let's bring her in right now. Hey.
Hi.
Hi, Isla.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome
Welcome.
to, this is a historic episode for us. This is episode 10. It's the first time we have ever done a two-part episode. It's the first time we've ever done a multi-guest episode, and it's the first time you've been on this episode. So we've had a thrill talking to people today. Welcome.
Thank you. I am so thrilled to be here. I'm probably one of your biggest fans.
Yay! That feels good. We're happy that someone's out there listening. So
I check all this. I'm like, oh, they haven't done it yet. That's okay.
Well, now you get to listen to yourself, so it'll be even more fun.
Yeah.
So today we've spoken to, we were just saying as we introduced you, I think you heard it, but we'll say it again. We got to hear how movement shapes Shomari Dev's life. We got to hear how music and sound and listening shapes Loka Dev's life. For me, I've spoken before, and certainly on the previous episode, about how patterns and shapes and color are inform my life experience. I'm seeing pattern, shapes, and color all the time. And Ananda Dev, you were speaking about the effects of being a performance artist and seeing emotion and relating and creating, and in this very moment, how it shapes your life. And you are a professional photographer. So we'd love to hear your experience of how creativity shows up in your life. You are an advanced disciple of Swami Premadaya, so a part of discipleship and part of Guruji's teaching is that a true spiritual path, a true spiritual life, the journey always includes living creatively. So we'd love to start with knowing how creativity shows up in your life.
Well, I have been aware of light since as long as I can remember. I thought it was just the way everybody saw it, like as we all do, as you know.
It's true. It's like we always assume that everybody has the same experience. Yeah. Everybody is the same level of intelligence, is the same moving through life in the same way. And that's one of the wildest things. It's like, that's not happening anywhere. You are unique. You are, it's all one thing, but you are absolutely, if you plant rose seeds, you're going to get a rose, but it's going to be unique. That's going to be a singular, one-time only rose. And yes, so you experience, part of your experience is the way light, the way you see light.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, ever since I was little, I would just be turning off lights because I just didn't like the color or whatnot. And I still in this house, there's a lot of different colored lights and I'm like turning them off all the time. But anyway, so that's just an example of how I remember doing that as a small child. And I've always really been just aware of light, and I can't stop being aware of light, probably in any moment. And I did not know that was unique, but I do now, thanks to Swami Premadaya. And then, so yeah, aware of light. And I didn't pursue art as in that way that we tend to think of art, for a long time, and but I was always doing photography. And then it actually came as a download when I was like 26. I remember I was riding on the subway and all of a sudden I knew that, it was so obvious. It was like the obvious realization, you do photography. And at that point I didn't know what I was doing at all, and feeling lost and all that. And then it took me a long time after that to get going and become a professional photographer. But always since I was, I think, small child, living creatively, I mean, in light and photo. And then now, I mean, I had the understanding, thanks to Swami Premadaya, that life is creativity, that spirituality and creativity are, inextricable. And so I have the photography and that piece as like a fun expression. And then how I'm living creativity more now is like more focused on getting to actually live and to be alive. And that is what my main focus is on in living creatively these days. Although
And for people who would be listening that don't know what you mean, because apparently, I mean, there you are. So apparently, you are alive and you are living. So can you help us by giving a bit of an understanding of what that means to live and be alive? Because it seems like you are.
Yeah, right. So I've become aware that and as you know, all of us do, we live our programming and our conditioning more than we live our true self or our aliveness. And to tie it with actually my work, what happens when I'm really creating in photography as well, my mind recedes, or it feels like it's really a feeling thing. So I've had to do a lot of practice, you got to know the technique that just has to be in you, like you've got to practice, you got to know how to do the things. But when I'm actually then in the moment and creating something, it's not from my thoughts. It's like a feeling, and almost my body's moving by itself. And like, even though I do a lot of food photography, and it's funny to talk about, I'm creating that world of food, and it isn't. And when I'm even, creating that world in front of me, I'm not thinking, it's just coming together. And that always turns out better than when I'm overthinking and coming from here. And
it's so amazing to also, when you listen back to this, how actually from every artistic practice, everyone is actually saying exactly the same thing.
Exactly the same thing.
Same thing. It's wonderful. Yeah.
I mean, we have to point out, we it's not like we've talked. This isn't prepared. You're in a different location. You're in a different country. I'm in a different location. We haven't talked. We haven't prepped. There's no outline. There's no one sheet that says, here's what we're talking about. We just got together. And when you hear this, you'll see why we're both chuckling on the screen here if you're watching it on YouTube, because we're literally laughing, because each person, this is part of the reason why we did the guests separately rather than all together, is because we wanted to hear it. And if you listen closely, you'll hear that it's all the same. It's really very, very beautiful how much, how rich it is. And that gives you, to me, that gives you the proof of what's being said is very, very true and real, because we're talking about 5 totally different people who have totally different expressions, and it's the exact same message. So that's a good information on life, creativity, and spirituality.
Yeah. It feels, it's like I'm not even, when I'm not here as much, and when going back to your question of what do you mean by, like, clearly you're alive, but it's like, am I living in my thought stream? This is how I experience it. Am I living more in my thought stream, or am I just more relaxed in being, and then whatever's coming through me, it comes through without so much clamoring and effort. And
you're not in the way.
Yeah.
You're available.
Yeah.
They call that being in the zone. There's lots of ways for people who might be listening, who might not have the same vocabulary we do. There's lots of ways that, being in tune, being in the zone, being in the moment. And ultimately, a simple way that we put that is, as far as spiritual understanding, is you're not in the way. And so you're allowing, we used the word earlier, freedom. There's such a freedom, such an openness in this. And then what is trying to happen, or what is coming naturally, happens.
And surprise, it's more easy that way. It's like, it's more relaxed that way. It's more fun. And thanks to, and this is recent, like I that has been, of course, like coming through as long as I've been doing photography, but I also, there was such a strong overlay of mental overthinking on top of that I didn't realize that what was actually doing the work was not that. It's like something that's coming from through me. And so recently, when all of our spiritual growth and getting more in tune with be your real self and being alive versus the chatter in the head. And I realized when I dropped it on a recent project I did, I had that understanding consciously, and I was able to just, oh, that's just my chatter, and drop it. And it was like, oh, it really is like it's a feeling sense that comes through and does the things, and I can have this or not. I might as well not have that if I can. So it's a recent seeing of what's actually been operating, and it's much less suffery and anxious when I'm not overthinking, because that's not helping anyway, and what's coming through is coming through anyway.
And as a photographer, like your practice, I don't know if you work analog or digital, probably also doesn't matter, but I like photography, and I've made some pictures myself with actual cameras. But what always is so wonderful to me, a long time ago, I had the first experience, like, okay, it's also like surfing. It's the here now moment. It's just waiting for the here now moment, and then just being, and then just pressing the button. And here now, it's quite literal in photography, because you take a slice out of just here now, and the moment, everything is always only here now.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a similar, it depends on what kind of photography I'm doing, but when I was first starting, that's exactly what you said. You just wait. And most of it is waiting and observing and just being, and then click. And then you got it. And when in the beginning, when I was doing it, that was very pure, because it's like that beginner's, you don't have all the stuff, and like the most amazing photos that I've taken are from when I really started, and it was all analog at the time, and I didn't know any better, so I would just take one, and it was like, and that was the one, and that is from observing, or for me, for being just like being there, and you just wait, and then the moment becomes clear.
You're also describing the entire spiritual path.
Oh,
I mean, think about it. It's like you just wait, you observe, and then it clicks. You wait, you observe, it clicks, and there's only one.
Yeah.
That's like the whole spiritual path. Like if you were like to do you could do a whole seminar. It'd be wait, observe, it
click.
It's all one.
Oh, that's awesome.
So how fun is that?
Wouldn't have put those two and two together.
And the other part of the photography that I think is important is, nowadays you have digital, and there's, sometimes it's like a burst of photos it's always the burst, but it's also having the sensitivity to look at these photos and choose the one that actually captures the art of that moment. And that in itself is its own art. It's its own specialness. It's having the sensitivity, the eye, to actually see this moment in that moment, and not all these others, because you're not just looking for the aesthetic moment where your eye is like this and whatever else, for the goofy face moment. You're not just looking aesthetically, you're actually looking for that moment that has been captured. And that's what really sets apart an artist photographer, or between that and somebody who takes nice pictures.
That's right. Yeah, you just articulated what I didn't know until recently. Like, that's the quote unquote like value I bring to commercial work, which it's like, it's that special like je ne sais quoi, like, yeah, everybody technical can take the same picture, but there's not the same feeling in it. It's not the same connection.
Right.
So
that's the aliveness that you're referring to, the aliveness that is unique to this particular flowering of human, or an earthling, as Guruji calls us, because earthling has a way of humbling rather than human being, or the arrogance of our species as humans. It's like, that's the particular uniqueness. We use this example in part one, that nowadays you can engineer an athlete with pure science, with pure diet, with pure science. You can have the same height, the same weight, the same strength, and they'll be two totally different people. And ultimately, what truly sets apart the masters in any category of life, whether it's art, whatever it is. It doesn't. It is truly the uniqueness of the individual. It's the creativity. And Guruji says, we've said it several times in this podcast episode, but you're here now, so we get to say it to you, which you've heard before, I'm sure. Which is, if you're going to live a spiritual path, if you're going to go on the journey, if you're a disciple, then you must live creatively. Otherwise, you're a living condition. That's also what we mean when we refer to aliveness. I'm to be more alive. It's like you're alive, but all you are is aliveness. And to live that more, you must live creatively. I was creatively creating a word. You must live creatively. You must get deconditioned from the structure, the modes, and the methods that people are telling you to live in, and you must live as yourself. And we were mentioning how that has a rebellious quality. It always has a creative quality, to live uniquely as you.
And it's actually the first time I completely get that also, like, okay, living unconditioned, being fully alive.
Well, I just have to say, keep your thought. I just have to say, living unconditioned is an impossible task. But
Sure.
you can live deconditioned.
Yes.
There's always going to be some sort of conditioning.
Yeah.
We're not saying you're not going to have, hey, the bathroom is very useful.
Sure.
It's great. It's a wonderful room to use. Just so we're clear, decondition is very different than unconditioned.
Yeah.
It's like you've removed enough salt and sodium, but you're going to have some salt in your diet if you're going to eat food. So we just want to be clear, because I don't want to give people an impossibility in their minds.
Yeah. Living creatively, living out your uniqueness, that it's actually about you and your uniqueness. And Ayla, you gave a good example, like 26, you didn't know what to do, but then you found your uniqueness, like light, of course, photography. And then as a photographer, your uniqueness, you said, like, many people can take beautiful pictures, and your uniqueness is like bringing that specific islandness to your pictures. And that is indeed the aliveness we want to live. Our uniqueness, aliveness, creativity, like, okay, it's always the more we do these podcasts and the more we speak and the more I hear other people talk and myself talk, it's all synonyms. It's all synonyms. Creativity, aliveness, it's like, these are all actually the same. But for me, a new part is, thank you, Ayla, the uniqueness you bring, the uniqueness, creativity actually invites you to just be.
Yeah, uniqueness. And when I'm actually doing the photographing, especially with people, it's funny because what I'm looking for, I realize is like the aliveness, the divine in everybody, which is not different. So it's interesting. It's like, uniqueness in that, and then, but when I'm looking, it's like, it is like the uniqueness of them, which is also, it's like this moment that's very, very shared and connected. So it's like also the same.
Yeah, and uniqueness, and there's a lot of ands. It's uniqueness and not being there at the same time, and it's all shared, and
and you'll never be able to fully articulate it, because as soon as you do, you'd put it in a box, and you can't do that. You can't perfectly state what it is, because it'll change. That's the whole. It's like it literally will grow out of that box immediately. You can't keep the vines in a box. It'll grow whatever it can grab onto, and that's part of the creativity of the aliveness itself. Is it's literally alive. So that's why you're sharing about the being more alive. It's like getting rid, because you're already as alive as you're going to be in this moment, but it's getting rid of that which dampens that. That's what turns down the flame of life. Which minimizes your creativity, your expression, your living of it. So that's when we say more aliveness. That's what we're actually. More aliveness is a simple, practical understanding. But what we're actually saying is less unaliveness. That's what but that's so complicated. I mean, the mind really likes complicated, but it's harder for people to grasp, but that's what we're actually referring to. So Guruji is the practical guru. He just says more aliveness, increase your aliveness, increase your aliveness, because you can do that. But what you're doing is you're shedding the dampeners and allowing that flame to grow, like really, really burn bright. And that's one of our messages and one of the ways at ICOTA, International Centers of Divine Awakening. That's one of our basically core principles, you could say, is to increase your aliveness, live more, be you, speak as your real self, relate to you completely, not what you're programmed into. So you're sharing an essential teaching today. So we sincerely appreciate that.
And there's also in what you talk about, I get a sense of heightened awareness also when you take pictures, aliveness, awareness. And I'm just curious about one thing, whether for you photography is also a sort of meditation. I think I still was a teenager. I just had an analog camera, and I had 8 pictures, black and white, on the camera. I could only take 8 pictures, and it took me 4 days to take 8 pictures. But that's my first experience of meditation in hindsight, because I was so aware. Basically, is that something?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, and everything you just said, Swami Sky, as well. I was just like, oh, this is how, because like there are all the dampeners, and then there's like the looking for but like your natural self wants to live without that. And so I went searching, like that was my connection. That was like my way of doing that. And that was especially when I was first starting meditation without knowing that. But it made me be able to access, being aware and not being in my head as much, and just, exactly. So I would take the same thing with, when I would you just watch and you wait and you take the one click. I mean, what is that? That is, that's meditation. Like just, and that's when the most, beautiful photos or whatever creativity actually manifest, or what it comes to, But I have that experience when I'm working. It's harder to do that, of course, like especially with the digital medium being like, like what it is, and then working with all these other people. But a whole crew and the clients who want, it's like you end up with like a dead image a lot of the time, because it's so, I'm like, who's listening? Nobody's listening from that world. But like it's like super dead by the time they're like, that one's it, and you're like, okay, we just killed the whole thing. But even in that, it's is it meditative? Less so. But it's fun to be connected with people and create together, because everybody.
Guruji says that meditation is whatever you're focused on, and so and I think part of what Ananda Dev is alluding to is the practice of it, the intensity of it, the precision of it. It's like you're actually so focused, you're in the moment, you're in the now, you're in the here, and all of that could be considered meditation if you actually look at it. Even if you have this is kind of like the old saying, like when you. Meditating in a cave is one thing, but it's when, people meditate in a cave for years, but when they go to the market, they lose all meditation. But you're talking about meditation you're talking about meditating in the middle. The difference between meditating solely on your own and meditating, in the middle of the market. So those are two different experiences. But I also hear very clearly you're describing such a level of awareness and attentiveness. What I really hear is this beautiful demonstration. Actually, now we tie all this together, and Ananda Dev, I actually hear from everybody, it's a kind of availability. And what is the watching? What is it? It's being available for this, to capture this very moment, this precise moment. And that certainly is meditation. There's certainly I love that Guruji's whole teaching can be basically summarized as him making himself available to people spiritually, because that was the divinely given message. That was the divinely given instruction. That is what he did. And now we have a lineage holder and a legacy holder who have also now understand. So recent And I've also talked about that availability, and now I can't unhear it. Now I hear it in so many different sources, including in what you're saying right now, Isla. It's a certain kind of availability, and that level of availability and openness is achieved through the discipline of meditation, though it may not be in the common what we refer to as meditation. We usually see the image, of a guy or a woman, man or a woman, person in lotus pose or crossed legs with straight spine. Well, meditation is closed eyes. There's walking meditation. There's mindful meditation. Well, life is your meditation, and this practice of photography, as Ananda Dev so accurately pointed out, sure sounds like the practice of meditation, although it may not be as easily as defined as what Google's definition would be.
Yeah, wonderful summary, Swami Sky. Availability, like indeed, everyone talked about being available to it, and the it is then whatever art practice or art form they are practicing. And that's also as the disciples.
Yes,
what we want, like be available to Guru, be available to God, be available to life.
Yes. Yeah. That's also a way of saying increase your aliveness. Well, yes. One way to increase your aliveness is become more available. Well, what about the person you're talking to in this moment? What about the meal you're preparing right now? Are you distracted or are you available? So that's an excellent way to summarize living creatively is, are you available? Because then, as we talked about in this episode, spontaneity comes out, or expression comes out. It's open-mindedness, it's freedom, but ultimately it comes from, are you available to any of them? So everybody has said today, it summarizes into availability. And to me, that summarizes all spiritual. So how does creativity and spirituality, how does that all summarize? Certainly has to do with, well, what are you available for? Is it your idea? This is how it's got to be. It has to be this way. This is how I planned it. Really? Well, because in this moment, I think you should use pink. It's like, okay, I guess I'll mix up some pink.
Wonderful.
Well, Isla, thank you for being our final guest to wrap up this episode.
Great.
Thank you for being our guest, period. Yeah. We're so happy to have you on the Bhakti Talk podcast. Yeah. We thank you for being here. We certainly honor you as our beloved Guru sister and are so happy to be with you and chat with you. And we appreciate the creativity and the light that you bring and that you are. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. It was super fun.
Thank you. Good. I'm so glad.
For us, it was very much fun too.
That's true. Okay.
Oh,
man.
Right, this was amazing. Let's do more guest episodes in the future. Wonderful.
More people, more talking, more about spirituality. We love talking about. Obviously, we're disciples, and we certainly love talking about our beloved Guru Swami Pramadaya, but it sure is fun talking to Sangha and hearing about how people move through life and experience their own discipleship, their own creativity. And there's just so many ways and so many things we can talk about. And each person is so rich with wisdom and just fun and just understanding and so much. We definitely have to do more multi-guest and multi-guest episodes. What a blast. Plus I love talking to you.
More people, more uniqueness.
That's true. And I want to make sure you heard it because I'll say it again. And I love spending time with you. It's such a joy to get together and talk about the spiritual path and just relate in the Bhakti. So thank you for episode 10. That's more episodes than your average podcast ever gets to. So I'm very proud of you. I'm proud of us. Yes. And I thank the International Centers of Divine Awakening. Thank our beloved Guruji for without, and this wouldn't even be possible. So thank you so much. Why don't you take us on out?
The Bhakti Talk podcast is presented by the International Centers of Divine Awakening. Find us on the ICODA website, where you can also check out our calendar of upcoming spiritual growth events and transformational programs. And get access to a free spiritual wisdom library of over 650 full-length recordings from Swami Premadaya's wisdom work. Visit i-coda.org. Thank you for listening. We give gratitude to you and honor your spiritual path. Thank you also to our beloved Sangha for your support, and a most ecstatic thank you to our beloved Guru, Swami Premadaya. Your wisdom ways and practices continue to be the transformational light on the spiritual path. Jai Jai Swami Premadaya. Jai Jai
Yeah.
Guru.
Jai Jai Gurudev.